One of the questions I get asked a lot about a shift that I recently made in my business is how did I know to do it, right? How did I know that it was time to let go of Conquer Your Business, the entire Conquer Your Business brand, which I had spent 5, 6 years building an amazing business around, and do something else? Like, how did I know? And I think it's usually a culmination of circumstances where if you can be an observer, if you can be an observer of what's going on around you and how you're feeling about it and what you're doing, get out of that reaction mode long enough to give things some thought so that you're not stuck, things get a little more obvious, right? Things get a little more obvious. So for me, this was a culmination of a few different things, some business related things and some personal related things. So on the business side first, so much of what I had been doing that had been working amazingly was no longer working. It was no longer working. And so I found myself at an event with a coach who I'd worked with for years, who I really admire and I still love her. And she was giving this presentation. And the message that I was receiving, now, whether or not this was the message she's sending, I don't know. But the message that I was receiving at the time was, everything I've taught you still works. You're just going to have to work harder to get the results. And you probably still won't get as good as results as you used to. And I'm listening to all the different people they had presenting, and it's, you got to work harder. You got to work harder. You got to work harder. You're not going to get the results, but you got to work harder. But you're not going to get all the results, but you got to work harder. And again, these were people that I really admired. These were people that I really liked. I'd worked with them for a long time. So I was a little surprised about my reaction, because my entire response to this 2-day event that I had traveled across the country to go to was no, just no. And that was really the beginning of realizing I needed to make this shift, when I'm surrounded by people who know what they're doing, telling me, when I was already frustrated, that I still had to work harder. I was out of hours in the day and days in the week. I was out of time. There was no just work harder. My motto has always been smarter, not harder, right? If I don't do the bang your head against the wall way of doing business, and everything that they were telling me was, you got to do the bang your head against the wall way of doing business, right? So when you take these ideas that the people you admire are telling you it's not going to work, I still don't think that's what she meant to say, but to me, that message was coming through loud and clear. And I was already feeling things not working the way I wanted them to. And then the third piece of my business that I was realizing with all of my clients, because I always talked about the fact that I work at the intersection where what you need to do meets who you need to be to do it. We would create these amazing business plans. But then all my work with the clients was helping them get out of their own way so that they can do the plan. Because the plan doesn't matter if you can't do the plan. It doesn't matter. If you can't get past limiting beliefs, get out of scarcity mindset, break through the fear, whatever it is that's holding you back, then the plan is irrelevant. And the plan's irrelevant. So if you look at those three things on my business side, I was already unhappy with my business and truthfully the way that I had created it. I was completely overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I was booked entirely too much. It was overwhelmingly busy. I was being told by people I admire that it wasn't going to work anymore. And what I was doing with my clients was really shifting from creating the business plan to creating the success mindset. When I started to really ask people about what they got out of working with me, and when I looked at my own excitement about what gave me the most joy and most I don't know what, just success and excitement around the outcomes that were being achieved. It was always the mindset breakthroughs. It was always the mindset breakthroughs. Business is just not that hard. Business is not that hard because you can buy it. You can buy it. You can hire amazing salespeople. You can hire amazing marketing, digital marketing people, consultants, graphic designers, all the things. You can buy the pieces. The part of business that's hard that you can't buy is the internal work, the internal work. And so that was really what I was getting excited about digging into more and more. When you put all those things together, I had created a perfect storm for myself where I was not happy. I had created an absolute perfect storm for myself where I was looking at what I had, this amazing business that I had poured my heart and my soul into, that I love the clients, that I love the team. And suddenly it didn't fit. When I saw myself, truthfully, I couldn't see myself in it anymore. I couldn't see myself in it anymore. And I had to take a step back. I had to take a step back. Now, the hard part, letting go of that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I actually wanted to do with this information. And so I just got quiet and I just created a lot more space in my life to think about what I love doing, to talk to people about the outcomes I was able to help them create, to really hone in on where am I happiest and where can I be of the best service? Because businesses exist to solve problems. There's no getting around that. Businesses exist to solve problems. And I was no longer, we want to be at the intersection where the thing that we are amazing at and the thing that lights us up most is the service, is the solution that we're providing for others. And I was no longer at that intersection. And that's hard, right? I can say it now because I've worked on it for a hot minute here, but that's a hard place to find yourself. That is a hard place to find yourself. But if you're willing to sit there for a little bit and not panic, or at least not panic most of the time, or not panic some of the time, or go through the panic so that you can get out the other side of the panic, right? It was, what do I do when I realize I don't want to do everything that I have? And I didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I did stop myself from getting too extreme too quickly. And what I really came to realize is the problem that I solve the best is helping people do things they didn't think possible. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love be scared and do it anyway. I love break past limiting beliefs. I love, as much as I loved creating $1 million business plans, what I loved more was the light that people would get in their eyes when they saw, oh my God, this is actually possible. This is actually possible. And it took a long time. It took me a long time to not just step away from what I had, but you almost go through a mourning, right? You go through this grief period of it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work until I realized it wasn't working anymore because it wasn't supposed to anymore. That the redirection was for my protection. The rejection was for my protection. Because I absolutely know, I have zero doubts about this. I absolutely know that the path I'm on now is going to create a greater impact, is going to create a greater outcome for more people, myself included, but for more people than anything I could have reached previously, than anything I could have imagined previously. So my invitation to you with this story is to give yourself a break for a minute. If you find yourself in these moments where it feels like everything you've worked for doesn't fit. It doesn't have to be your own business. I see this with a lot of people in jobs also, right? It's this sunk cost problem we have as humans. We don't want to give up on all the time, money, energy, and effort we put into something. But sometimes, if you're willing to go through the hardship and the honest conversation with yourself and the really diving deep on what you want and what you don't want, a willingness to let something fall apart, to let go of worrying people are going to think I failed and stop trying to prove, no, I did this on purpose. It doesn't even matter. Sometimes if you're willing, or even if you're forced into willing to go through that, what you come out with on the other side is more than you ever even imagined. So take that time. If you find yourself feeling like what you've created for yourself doesn't fit anymore, if the universe is sending you signs and sending you messages that this is not the right way, that this doesn't have to be that hard. If it's that hard, it's not the right way. I think that was probably my biggest lesson out of that. If what you're doing is that, I work, I hustle, I love working. But if what you're doing is that hard, you know what I'm talking about because you can feel it. If what you're doing is that hard, maybe it's time to not do that anymore.